I think we'll see a lot more movement of people in and out of the company. If you choose to grow your domain expertise in the company, you have a really great career path and option in the digital expert career path. It's a very important thing that we keep our experts in mind, continue to break the silos and open doors for them to get involved in stuff outside of their day-to-day.
Welcome, everyone. This is the AI at Scale podcast by Schneider Electric. My name is Gosia Górska and I'm the host of this program. Today, I have the pleasure welcoming Clayton Mohamed, Vice President HR at Schneider Electric Digital. Hi, Clayton.
Hello.
Great to have you. So Clayton is an HR professional with 18 years of professional career with Schneider Electric. And over the past 12 years, Clayton has been executing a global HR partner role, with the last 6 years as the HR VP at a business unit, Schneider Digital, that oversees companies' digital transformation initiatives. Today, we will talk about an operating model that allows to scale AI within the company, changes within talent profiles, and also how to create the best place to work for digital talents. Are you ready to jump into the first question, Clayton?
Let's go for it. And thanks again for having me.
Yes, fantastic. So, indeed, my first question will be about talent and operating model strategies. How do you choose the strategy and which of them are key to scaling AI across Schneider Electric?
As you mentioned, I've had the opportunity to be the HR partner for Schneider Digital for the last 6 years. And if I think of the history of the way the AI hub and operating model was built, it really started in a very gray space. If I think of the executive committee offsite meeting that occurred in the middle of 2021. I remember I report to the chief digital officer, and he came back following that meeting with a very vague but direct instruction, which was Schneider was intending to build an AI hub centralized underneath Schneider Digital. That was my marching orders. So not a lot of clear instruction, but I ran with it. Obviously, the first thing we did, we wanted to identify a chief AI officer. So Philippe Brombach, who's been in this role now for several years. Our initial intent was we wanted to find somebody who had a strong understanding of Schneider Electric, its stakeholders, external partners, and customers, because we were ultimately looking to set up an operating model that partnered with various parts of Schneider Electric, whether internal business units, when you think of the HR community, finance, global supply chain, to name a few, but also business units that were much closer to our customers when we think of what we define as our energy management business unit, or the sustainability team, or industrial automation. So that was the initial start. A big moment of truth when we onboarded our chief AI officer is Schneider does a lot of work with external partners when you think of the typical consulting firms, right? And those consulting firms came and they sort of put Philippe and I into a moment of truth in a corner on whether or not Schneider could actually build up on its own an AI hub. And obviously the easy thing to do would be to lean on our consulting partners and say, help us do it. But to your point around the operating model, we took time to assess the market, where the talents were, overlaying it with areas that Schneider is operating in some of our big hub countries. Schneider operates under a multi-hub model. We recognize, at least on day one, our brand strength when you think of AI, not top of the heap when compared to maybe some of the other big tech companies. But Philippe and I felt like we had enough ammunition in our pocket to go at it alone and not rely on consulting firms and agencies to help us do it. So that was really a groundbreaking moment for us. We sort of did it on the back of our multi-hub model. So really trying to build out teams that are concentrated in a few key locations for us and not having talents scattered everywhere. That would have been probably a mistake for us.
Yes, but also not located in one central place. So can you mention which locations these are?
Yeah. When we were doing our site assessments, we certainly look at external market data and trying to understand the talent supply, where we might have some brand strength, where the talent seems to be growing or the ecosystem seems to be somewhat maturing. And so we ultimately selected, to your point, 3 major locations. And even to this day, over 99% of the AI hub are in 3 countries for us. And that's the United States, most notably Boston area, France, with a heavy concentration in Paris and Grenoble. The team sort of coexist and intermingle between those 2 sites. And India, specifically Bangalore for us, where not only Schneider Digital is growing and emerging there, all of the business units of Schneider Electric are continuing to build out there, as India in itself, right, as a society continues to propel itself to a global stage. So those were the 3 locations that we felt were going to be instrumental for the AI hub to get off the ground. It took us about 1.5 years really to get that somewhat situated and stabilized. But I'm happy to say, when we look back and reflect, I think, with the sponsorship of the executive committee and really the leadership of Philippe Brombach, our chief AI officer, I think we made the right choice, right, to go at it, roll the dice, gamble a little bit, and not rely fully on external agencies or firms doing it for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I see definitely 2 dimensions here. You mentioned about the geographical diversity, the 3 hubs that we have. You also mentioned about the different topics that our AI and digital talents are working on, because once they join, then they actually have the opportunity to work on various projects with HR, with global supply chain, or with energy management, with different units inside the company. I also was hearing that we have some great results in terms of diversity of employees. So we finished last year with 50% of female hiring rate, which is really great, right? So congratulations for this. Can you tell us a bit more right now, when you look at the talents, how does it change the profile of the talents that we are looking for to join Schneider Digital, and also how AI has reshaped this talent profile?
Maybe continuing with sort of the buildup of the AI hub. I think when we started it, our go-to-market strategy for recruiting would have been sort of the typical profiles you might think of, right? So we went heavy looking for data scientists and data engineering and software capability. I would say over time, the type of talents we're also looking at, especially you see a bigger emergence of responsible AI and how do companies position it themselves with respect to ethics. So our cyber and responsible AI posture is evolving too, in order to make sure we're doing the right things for the greater good, for lack of a better word. So one of the things when we first went go to market, building out the AI hub, sort of continuing with my last point, we were hiring the profiles that you would expect to hire, right? We went very heavy, finding in the market, data engineering, data science capabilities, developers. But that started to evolve a little bit as you've seen a bigger emergence of responsible AI and ethics, and what are companies doing to take that into consideration. So our cyber resilience and posture there has become more and more important. But one of the things we are also seeing with the rapid change and acceleration of the technology itself, you accept your fate that you don't necessarily know what are the skills of the future. Like, this is becoming tougher and tougher to predict. So I actually, myself as an HR partner, where I try to coach and guide the leaders I'm supporting on the type of skills, I actually lean more towards the soft skills, right? And I think if you have people working in AI right now, that in itself is a clue of a soft skill or a posture around someone's capability to deal with uncertainty, to be able to adapt in a often changing environment. Those are the kinds of skills that we need to continue to bring into Schneider Electric, Schneider Digital, really anywhere in the company, because as that technology landscape evolves very rapidly into an unknown space, our ability to embrace it and be comfortable to experiment with it will ultimately help with our overall success. So I think that's a super important, often underestimated skill that's required for talents that we're bringing into the company.
Mhm. That's really a great insight. And I think this is something that we can start to observe, that the soft skills are no longer called even soft, they are called essential skills to thrive in the company. Okay, so could you tell us a bit more about how now, once you have all these talents onboarded in Schneider, how do you create the best place to work for them?
Yeah, this one's a passion for me. So even outside of AI and digital, I have found opportunities to figure out how do we improve the way we reward and celebrate individuals in the company who decide not to grow their careers under a traditional people manager, right? Maybe you would say a traditional people manager is a manager, a senior manager, and then a VP and a senior VP. That's not for everybody. That's not everybody's cup of tea. We have so many great people in the company that have domain expertise. And, I know we're talking about AI and digital today. So that domain expertise could be, yes, someone who has heavy domain expertise in data, cyber, software development, architecture, all of those kinds of things. So we've instituted in the company probably 2 examples I'd like to share. It's not exhaustive, but I think they're pretty notable. One is an electrifier program. That's just our internal, I'll say a buzzword or our brand that we use to certify and acknowledge a certain level of expertise, domain expertise that an individual has in the company. And that has 3 different levels. It's a pretty sophisticated internal evaluation depending on the level that you're applying for. So level 1 is sort of your entry level, for lack of a better word, into this certification program. And it tops out at a level 3. So we try to make sure we're identifying this level of domain expertise so we can take these great people and apply them to different areas that we think can be positively disruptive to the company. So that electrifier program, we have well over 1,000 people in the company in this. So a pretty substantial group across all of the business units in the company. So the Schneider Digital group that I'm responsible for as HR, we have quite a bit as well, over 150 of them. So that's something that we're very proud of. The second one that I'll just quickly mention is the Digital Expert Career Path. This is something we launched in Schneider Digital a few years ago. Along the same line, we felt like as we do a lot of activity, to your point earlier about the way we're hiring profiles and the diversity can also be generational, right? So we've done a lot of early career talent hiring in the company, a ton, thousands upon thousands of digital talents coming through the door on an annual basis. But what's sort of fair is those early career talents might say, hey, I'm not really up for being a people manager. I'm not interested in that. I'm much more interested. I'm a data professional. I want to continue to hone my skills as a data scientist. So the Digital Expert Career Path is a very visible and transparent leveling system, right? That allows people to understand that if they come into the company at an entry level, what's the next level after that? What's the next level after that? What's the next level after that? And we try to equalize those individual contributors in terms of the same value and impact that would have as a people manager, so that they can see side by side, there's no differentiation between the two. So it really showcases and validates that if you choose to grow your domain expertise in the company, you have a really great career path and option in the digital expert career path. So I just wanted to share those two, because maybe I'll end with this. Like in Schneider Digital, we have over 4,000 employees on the digital expert career path, and they know exactly where they sit in the organization, and transparency is super key on this. They understand what they need to master in their particular level in order to understand the attributes and readiness to move to the next level in the company. So overall, we've gotten great feedback with the two particular programs.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. And it's very thoughtful that we have this kind of opportunity and concrete career for a path for them. When I think about digital talents, I also imagine that you would have talents who are more like hands-on engineers who like to build and create, and maybe some of them who would like to research and study and go more into the innovation direction. So how do you cater to this kind of different interests?
It's tricky. I think, I'll just quickly say those kinds of talents we certainly want in the company, right? We embrace those talents. Schneider, if you take the 50,000 foot view, is a company that's trying to push more disruption into the market with its products and solutions. And we would not be able to get there if we didn't encourage that kind of experimentation. So, I just spoke about the electrifier program. That's exactly one of the key pillars of the electrifier program. It's identifying those talents and getting them involved in experimentation, in research that we believe can be positively disruptive into the products and solutions that we're ultimately giving to customers. So again, we don't want to always bog down those experts. I call it administration stuff, but I think you know what I mean, right? Like, okay, fine. People have to book their vacation in the system and submit expense reports from time to time, but we don't want to bog down our experts with too much of that kind of stuff. We want to make sure we're identifying the opportunity areas, and that doesn't always need to be siloed in their specific business unit, right? If someone in the AI hub, if I tie it back to that, has a high level of domain expertise in a certain area and can create positive impact in another business unit that's maybe in the research or experimentation phase of something, why wouldn't we unlock that person to go and help out that team and determine whether or not something could be tangible there? So it's a very important thing that we keep our experts in mind, continue to break the silos and open doors for them to get involved in stuff outside of their day-to-day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's actually double down on AI, as you mentioned it now. With the appearance of more and more digital talents and AI experts at Schneider Electric, we have more and more AI assistants, AI tools at our disposal. I wanted to ask you about how do you create a culture where we see this AI technology, AI solutions as support, as some additional value for us and not as a threat?
Yeah, that's obviously a big topic, right? There's two sides of the room, so to speak. And I think for Schneider, we try and put on the hat that AI is an enabler and not a limiter or a job stealer or things like that. And I think Schneider's, even before AI, has always been pretty big on a we use the word learn every day type culture. And if I maybe go back to the AI hub, I want to give them kudos, right? So in the early days of the creation of the AI hub, they decided to stand up what we call inside the company, the data and AI school. And that's been a very important partner to not just helping people in the AI hub learn, but really getting on a full corporate enterprise level the various AI learning solutions and technologies that are coming our way in order to best equip employees and make them as comfortable as possible, incorporating those solutions into their day-to-day. And as we see right? It's a mix, maybe, as you had mentioned earlier. The AI hub team can certainly tailor and create surgical solutions on specific use cases that are unique to Schneider. But sometimes they also oversee some off-the-shelf solutions, right? So they're not necessarily creating every single thing from scratch. So they're more of an arm's length in that case. They have an awareness. If there's an off-the-shelf solution that can work for Schneider, can work for any other company, they're maybe a little less involved, but definitely still having some level of involvement. That data and AI school is super important in helping employees just become comfortable, experiment with it. I say take baby steps. I think sometimes we're a little bit hard on ourselves, thinking we need to be experts as employees, like maybe you and me on a day-to-day basis. So just nudging employees into that kind of space, I think, has been very helpful. And we're seeing it, right? We're seeing more and more, not every employee yet, that's totally fine. Like anything, there's always a change management curve. But I would say on the back of the data and AI school, we've gotten employees much more comfortable at embracing AI and looking at it less as a threat and more as a tool that will help me be more effective in my job on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, I think, a great approach. And if we look a little bit into the future, what do you prepare for? How the AI-empowered workforce will look like in the future?
I think there's a couple of big ticket items when you think of freelancing. I think we'll see a lot more movement of people in and out of the company. As you know, we might say like that gig economy certainly will have a bit more of an emphasis. And we'll see likely a reduction in some traditional types of employment when you think of quote unquote full-time employees. It'll be more instances of fixed term situations. I think companies will become more or need to become more comfortable with shorter career spans, even for those who are in the company. I think actually managers have started to get better at that anyways, that the more early career talents we have, they seem to like to switch in and around industries, right? I'm seeing that a lot more, that, if someone joins Schneider and, gets to apply their digital skills on products and solutions in, the space of energy management and efficiency, that's cool. Very cool. But, we're not shocked when that person goes to a completely different industry, and you see a lot more fluidity between industries, more and more compared to like 5-10 years ago, where you were very industry siloed as a talent. I also think maybe last thing I'll say is I'll see more and more links of skills, right, into the way in which a company is moving in the future. I think even as I look at Schneider Electric and self-reflect, the emphasis on skills, although I still stay true to my earlier point that on the technical and digital side, we have no crystal ball. We have a sense of where tech skills are required, but because everything changes so fast, it's very difficult to predict. But I think on the soft skills side, I'll just reinforce that again. Like if we have people who have the right mindset to accept a shift, it's coming, they're okay in times of uncertainty, those will be the workforces of the future that I think will propel themselves to the top of the heap and see a lot of success because they've been able to find people who are super agile, not super fixated on the way things were. This is the way things were always done. They're more comfortable now just accepting like status quo isn't the fact that there is no status quo. And that's what you're going to see for companies who find great success.
Mm-hmm. So we would say learn every day, and soft skills are the ticket to the future for digital talents.
That's my gut feeling.
Okay. Well, it was great talking to you, Clayton. Thank you so much for the insightful conversation.
And I'll just say as well, I really appreciated the opportunity to come join you, share a couple thoughts and ideas. So it was a pleasure on my end as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you all who are listening and watching to us. Please stay tuned for the new episodes on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. Thank you.